morning, students. Welcome once again to Pedagogical Content Knowledge in Biology. Today's lesson, we are going to look at active teaching. Now, active teaching is Unit 6, and we'll look at Session 1. In Session 1, we are going to look at instructional methods as a means to accomplish curriculum goals. So let us move to our objectives for this session. So these are our objectives for this lesson. So objective 1, I'm saying that by the end of the lesson, you should be able to explain active teaching. 2, classify teaching approaches into 4 types. And then objective 3, I'm saying vary your method of teaching. You should be able to vary your method of teaching as a teacher. So we move to the content of this lesson. Now, we begin with active teaching. When we say active teaching, what do we mean? So, active teaching is the method employed by the teacher in actively presenting information to students, involving them in interactive discourse. So, when you present information to students and you involve them in a dialogue, it means you are doing an active work or your teaching is active. But when you are teaching and you don't involve your students, we can classify it to be an active teaching. So, whilst you are teaching, you the biology teacher, your attention should be on the students, where you create a conducive atmosphere for students to construct their own knowledge and then understanding. So when this happens in your classroom, then it means active teaching is going on. So when the atmosphere is not intimidating, students are able to learn at their own pace and not afraid of making mistakes, because the teacher is there to guide and help them to correct their mistakes. So the atmosphere should be very friendly whilst you are teaching. It shouldn't be kind of shyness where it will draw some students away in your class or prevent students from contributing. So whenever you are teaching, there should be kind of a dialogue between you and your students. So the next thing to discuss is instructional methods as a means to accomplish curricular goals. So now we know what an active teaching is, so we are going to link it to the instructional methods. So we are at instructional methods, which is serve as a means to accomplish a curricular goals. So there are many different approaches to teaching. So some researchers like Joyce, Weil, and Calhoun described over 25 approaches and classified them into 4 types. So we have information processing, social interaction, personal, and behavioral. So we are going to explain these 4 approaches one after the other. Now, information processing approaches. Now, this one organizes instruction to present material so that learners can process and retain it most easily. So with the information processing, the instruction is being organized for learners to retain it easily. So they also attempt to foster students' information processing skills. So as a teacher, you should be able to construct these things in your teaching. The next one is social approaches. Now with this one, they stress the group living aspect of schooling. So instruction is arranged so that students learn from one another, as well as the teacher, who focuses on fostering group relations as well as on instruction. So social approaches, with this one, we are trying to say that when you are teaching, there should be kind of students mingling with their colleagues during your teaching, where students can learn from their colleagues. That is why in the active teaching, I said the environment should not be intimidating, where students will feel shy. So in the social approach, like social environment. Students meet their colleagues, dialogue, discuss, and then find solutions to problems. So with this one, you organize your instruction in such a way that students will learn from their colleagues. For instance, you can group students, okay, and then one will lead the group. You give them a project. So the group leader, which is a colleague of the students, the students will learn from their group leader. So when you organize such an instruction, we term it a social approach. So we will move to the next approach. Now, personal approaches. Now, personal approaches draw on humanistic psychology to promote intellectual and emotional development. That is self actualization, mental health, and creativity. So, with the humanistic psychology, you, the teacher, your personality is very important whilst you are teaching. So, whilst you are teaching, students look upon you to build themselves, the caliber of teacher you are, the way you dress to class, the way you present your instructions, the way you answer questions in class, the way you teach. Students look at these things to self-actualize themselves and develop their mental psychology. And also, students are able to become creative in their doings. So as a teacher, you have to present yourself very well. The next one is behavioral approaches. Now with this one, the behavioral approaches sequence activities. They sequence activities to promote efficient learning and shape behavior through reinforcement. So in your teaching, whilst you are teaching, some students might not perform well in your teaching. So there should be kind of reinforcement in order to help the student up and doing. For instance, if a student in your class is scoring below average all the time in all your exercises, and then the colleague is scoring better, so there should be kind of a behavioral approach that will ignite the one scoring below average in order to perform well. So, for instance, if the good students score, say, 90 over 100, you can make the whole class clap for him or her in order to make those who are scoring below average up and doing. Or you can give the student a gift in order to ensure that those students who are below average who also sit up and then challenge those who are good. So when you do this, you are performing the behavioral approach. There should be kind of reinforcement to change behavior in the classroom. Now, most of the approaches commonly recommended as methods for teaching subject matter are either information processing approaches or social approaches. So, specific teaching methods are useful for accomplishing certain purposes in certain situations. No one method is optimal for all purposes in all situations. So, using a single method all the time would foolishly treat methods as an end in itself rather than as a means of accomplishing one's instructional goals. So, a method is most effective when used as part of a coherent instructional program. What I'm trying to say is a method should be goal-oriented, designed to accomplish clear goals that are phrased in terms of students' capabilities to be developed. But a goal-oriented program features alignment among the goals themselves and each of the program's components. So the content selected for focus, the organization, sequence and representation of the content, its elaboration and application during lessons, activities, and assignments are very key when you are drawing up goal-oriented program. So achieving alignment among the elements in an instructional plan requires teacher decision So you, the teacher, your decision making about goals and methods is very important. But only certain methods are suited to particular goals. Other methods are irrelevant or even counterproductive. So, given appropriate goals and content, the primary planning task is to identify combinations of methods that is most likely to accomplish the goals. So, in several methods, they seem to be equally appropriate. One that you need to use in order to achieve a specific objective. All the time, you have to use varying methods in your teaching. As a teacher, you shouldn't focus on one method of teaching, which is not going to help you. So, like I said, I've explained these ones already. So, specific teaching methods are useful for accomplishing certain purposes in certain situations. But no one method is optimal for all purposes in all situations. But a method is most effective when used as part of a coherent instructional program that is goal-oriented. So it means that when you want to achieve a specific goal, you have to design or use a specific instructional method. Now, what I mean by a goal-oriented program, what do I mean? Now, a goal-oriented program features alignment among the goals themselves and each of the goals, or sorry, each of the program's components. So, in goal-oriented program, you have to consider these things. We have the content selected for focus, the organization, sequencing, and presentation of the content, elaboration and application during the lessons, activities, and assignments are very important in your goal-oriented program. And then the method used to evaluate the learning. So all these four things highlights on goal-oriented program. Now, we've learned a lot in this lesson. We've learned about active learning and then instructional methods as a means to accomplish curriculum goals. I highlighted about 4 of the instructional methods. We have a lot of them, but we centered on 4 of them, which I explained very well. I explained what goal-oriented program is, what goes into goal-oriented program. So I'm asking you these questions in order to serve as a review for you guys. Now, question number 1, I'm saying that what is active teaching? Question 2, state the 4 classifications of teaching approaches and explain 2 of them. So I believe you guys will discuss these questions on any available e-learning platform, and I believe it's going to help you guys. So all the best in your discussion.